I will chant. Ahimsa satyam krodhasya त्याग शान्तिरपैशुनम् दया भूतेष्वलोलुप्त्वम् माध्वं ह्रिया चापलम्. So the verse translates to that now we cover this next set of qualities: harmlessness, truth, absence of anger, renunciation, peacefulness, absence of crookedness, compassion for beings, non covetousness or non greed, gentleness, modesty, absence of fickleness. So let's take them up word by word. Ahimsa, harmlessness. Satyam is truth. Akrodh, so krodh is anger. Akrodh becomes absence of anger. Tyag is the ability to renounce. Shanti, peace. Apassionam is, uh, where you do not have absence of calumny or non, uh, what should I say, crookedness. Where you're not crooked, you're honest. Daya, Bhuteshu becomes, Daya is of course compassion, Bhuteshu is for beings, so Daya Bhuteshu becomes compassion for beings. Aloluptvam is uncovetousness, where you do not have greed towards people or beings or objects. Mardhavam is gentleness. Hri is modesty. Achapalam is absence of fickleness. So let's chant it together. अहिंसा सत्यं क्रोधस्य त्यागशान्तिरपैशुनम् दया भूतेष्वलोलुप्त्वम् माध्वं ह्रीरचापलम्. So the verse brings forth 11 more qualities. And okay, we will discuss all the, once we've covered all the 26 qualities, and we'll come back and say, understand why we are reading them. So, ahimsa is harmlessness. And this we had also covered while we were doing the qualities of a bhakta and the qualities of the jnani. Now, ahimsa means when we wish no one ill. In that state, we will not harm anyone. And when does this happen? When we see oneness. So it's that universal law in effect that I want others to do unto me as I should do unto them, right? So it's a both ways, it's a give and take. So nobody should hurt me, which means if I want have that feeling that no one should hurt me, then other person I should also realize wants the same feeling. The bird or the ant or any animal or any other being comes to me with that expectation that I will not hurt that person. So, not offending another being in thought, word, or deed. Now, we may say that, okay, this contradicts the situation when a punishment has to be given. The point is that harmlessness actually also applies to punishment. So even when we are punishing someone, we are giving out a just punishment as per the law of the land or as per the society norms. We should not do it with malice. Now let me see how this person reacts, or let me try and hurt as much as possible. No, it is the same thing that the knife is used by both a doctor and a murderer. The doctor is using it to protect someone, whereas the murderer is doing it, using it to kill someone. So we should be careful that we should not have malice in our heart when we are even giving out punishment. Satyam is truthfulness. So working from the level of our conscience. our conviction, and not working at the likes of at the level of the mind where we work on likes and dislikes. So I don't want to go somewhere, so immediately the first thing that happens is I tell a lie. Oh, I'm busy today and I have prior commitments, things of that kind. So that should not be done. And also, we should not distort facts to suit our purpose or our like. So this is truthfulness. Essentially, we should work from the level of our conviction, from the level of our conscience. Akrodh is, of course, absence of anger. And anger we had covered in that ladder of fall, how it leads to complete delusion. So, once again, never mind, let's revise that anger arises when a desire is interrupted. And some of us are able to control the anger and its manifestation, whereas others exhibit it. So, the point is that in either case, whether we are whether we manifest it or don't manifest it, if it arises, that means if we become angry, it harms us. So in either case, whether we are successfully able to suppress it or show it, in either case anger is actually harming us. So we should try to not get angry. That is the best situation. So we have to train ourselves to that. Now, again, all these things, all these qualities, when they come to meeting out punishment, the nature of the quality remains the same. But anger, then, so for example, if you get angry with your subordinate or your staff, when they're not performing something that you had instructed them to do, so that there you are, you telling the other person to improve himself or herself. So that is a different form. But we should not lose our temper. That means the anger should not overwhelm us. So even when we are talking to a subordinate and actually getting angry, we should not start screaming and shouting and just, losing control over ourselves. So absence of anger, when we talk here in this verse, akrodh, it refers to this judicious control of temper. Tyag is renunciation. So the divine person neither indulges nor abstains from the world. The person contacts the world intelligently and performs the obligatory duties dispassionately. And in chapter 4, you may recollect that we had talked about renunciation in action. So while you're acting, you are renouncing the results of that action, or uh, essentially the results of the action, but you're not renouncing action per se. So you continue to do your duties, but the results, they don't affect you. So that is tyag. Shanti is peace. So inward balance, intellectual poise, and the ability to retain our inner equilibrium despite the changing, vacillating, fluctuating external situations. Essentially, rising above the pair of opposites, honor, dishonor, uh, heat and cold, etc., etc. So, this quality, Shanti, happens when we take the support of that supreme reality or the inner of our, the core of us, which is the source of peace and bliss. Apassionum is aversion to fault finding. So, not criticizing, slandering, saying bad things about people. The divine person is actually focused on himself or herself and actually does not have time for negative thoughts. Also, if we inspect, uh, just scratch the surface, you'll find that having negative thoughts is detrimental from the practical point of view also, because it will yield no results. It will harm or worsen the situation that we find ourselves in. So we must maintain a healthy relationship with one and all. So we should know the boundaries actually, where to end the relationship or where to call a stop to that relationship and not beyond that. So the Lakshman Rekha of the relationship as well. Daya Bhuteshu, compassion towards all beings. So, compassion is that feeling that we feel when we see the suffering of others. Now, the divine person actually feels oneness with the entire creation and therefore does not feel superior to those who have lesser in terms of, let's say, physical, mental, and intellectual attributes. And on the other hand, tries to give or provide whatever support that that person can give. So, this is not pity. We are not scared of the other person, and then we are giving that whatever support we are giving out of compassion, about out of our feeling towards helping the person whom we can possibly help. And this compassion, of course, arises from our internal convictions or our conscience. Alloluptavam is when we are not covetous. So, what is greed? Greed is when we want to accumulate more than we need for our sustenance. So, we see all around us that people have huge amounts of wealth and possessions. And when they die, they leave all that behind them. So there was no point, actually, if we just scratch the surface again and just think about it, what was the point of aggrandizing all this wealth? So freedom from such covetousness leads to contentment and inner peace, because when we realize the futility of what we have gained, which we are going to leave here, it's a waste of our time and our energies. So instead, we start devoting it for our own upliftment and our own knowledge. And we read the nature of desire, that it is a trishna, endless thirst, that when we are doing the rajasic guna, and it is insatiable for sense indulgence. So all of us have this potential, this in the rajasic nature in ours leads to endless thirst and insatiable hunger. The idea is that we have to increase the sattva in us so that the rajas goes down. So the divine remain in self control by remaining content with what comes their way. Mardhavam is gentleness, cultured behavior that we display when we contact the external world. And when we are insensitive, that is when we behave roughly or rudely to other people. But as we grow spiritually, automatically we become poised and we are gentle in our behavior. The crudeness goes away. And this gentleness is a sign of spiritual refinement. Re is modesty, shame, which I think these days is fairly lacking. So one is, of course, shame. So I was talking from that point of view. Modesty is, it also means that we live within our means. So it arises that when we understand that we must not perform actions which are contrary to the injunctions of scriptures and the society. And of course, the favorite Ish Upanishad, in fact, most of these qualities here, absence of covetousness, I mean, for example, greed, uh, always brings me back to Ish Upanishad, verse number 1. ईशावास्यमिदं सर्वं यत् किंच जगत्याम जगत तेन त्यक्तेन भूंजितः माँ गृधः कस्य स्विद धनम. दैट मीन्स ईश का वास है, ये जो आप सब देखते हो, वट एवर इज मूविंग नॉन मूविंग अराउंड यू, enjoy that. Ten yakten, bhunjita. Enjoy all that. But don't have greed or covetousness towards that. After all, whose wealth is it anyway? So, the inner conscience of ours aligns with this verse of Each Upanishad and prevents us from indulgent and acquisitive acts. Then the last quality that we cover in this verse is a chapalam, or non-fickle, or absence of fickleness. So what happens is that, okay, I set a goal for myself. This works also in worldly targets that we set for ourselves. So we say, okay, I will do 2 hours of workout every day. So we start with with a lot of enthu and vigor on the first day, and by the end of the week we say, okay, let me reduce the target. Maybe 1.5 hours is good enough for me. So we start with good intentions, but we get distracted by the temptations or the rigor of or the hardships that we face, so we don't complete the journey, we change the journey. I mean, so if I am to go to Mumbai and I find something, I'm traveling by train, I like something at Bhopal, I get off and meander into Bhopal and say, okay, I'll reach Mumbai sometime, and that's okay, just now let me go to Bhopal. So we meander, we go on the easier path or where the mind is taking us. So success on any path, this applies to worldly goals. Of course, in this chapter, we are talking about the spiritual goals. So, on the path of virtue comes only by focused and consistent perusal of the goal that we have set. The goal must be supported by our convictions. So, if I do not believe in, for example, getting up early, setting the goal as getting up early is not going to work. First I have to understand whether is it good for me to get up early or not. Should I do that? Once I'm convinced that I should get up early, then the goal setting works. So, and then we are more likely to succeed because all the diversions are now out of the way. So, once I understand that I have to spend 1 hour in the week reading Bhagavad Gita, whatever happens, I will do that. So, that is absence of fickleness. You continue on your path. So, we have covered 11 qualities here, and total of, if we had covered 9 in verse number 1, right? And 11 years. So that means we have covered a total of 20 qualities so far. Let's move on to verse number 3. तेज क्षमा धृति शौचम अद्रोहो नातिमानिताः भवन्ति सम्पदं दैवीम् अभिजातस्य भारत. Radiance, forgiveness, fortitude, purity, absence of hatred, absence of much pride. These belong to the one born of divine state, O Bharataha. So let's take it up word by word. Tej is the radiance or the shine, spiritual luster, because we are talking at the spiritual level. So that luster. Kshama is when you forgive someone. So kshama is the quality of forgiveness. Dhriti, steadfastness, or what we just covered, non-fickleness actually. So you continue, you're convinced and you do it. Shocham, again, purity. Adroha. So droha is when you revolt. Adroha is when you absence of revolt or absence of malice, when the ill will or malice is not within you. Na, not. Atimanita, much pride. Bhavanti, belong. Sampadam, state. Devam is divine. Abhijatasya, of born, of the people who have taken birth. Bharat is the name for Arjun that Krishna is using here. So the verse translates to radiance, forgiveness, fortitude, purity, absence of hatred, absence of much pride. These belong to the one born of divine state, O Bharata. So let's chant it together. तेज क्षमा धृति शौचम द्रोहो नातिमानिताः भवन्ति सम्पदं देवीम् अभिजातस्य भारताः. So, Lord Krishna is presenting 6 more qualities of the divine people. The first one, Tej, which translates to luster, brilliance, radiance. So, the spiritual luster actually comes to dedicated seekers or the divine people. And how does this luster arise? See, our energy, we all have almost the same amount of energy levels individually, right? We are all drawing energy from the same source. But instead of channelizing the energy, we are depleting it through relentless contact with the sense objects. So even if you have the target, let's say of a good target, so you say, okay, I'll learn music or I will sit down for studies there, and you take out certain time, you have assigned certain time to your studies or to your riyas. But okay, I like the rag so much, so now instead of doing the riyas for 1.5 hours, I go on to 4 5 hours. That is also depletion of my energy, because that energy was supposed to be channelized for some other thing. Actually, in my schedule for the day, it was maybe supposed to be assigned to my housework or to my setting up of my or cooking maybe. So when we contact sense objects, we tend to actually do a relentless contact, or we just continue. We also indulge in that non-intelligent contact. So we overindulge and we overspend our energies, and therefore our focus changes and our goal is not met. So, energy is conserved when we control our sense organs. When we say, okay, 1.5 hours is what is the maximum time limit for my riyaz, I must get up now and go on to the next item. So, that is when we control our sense organs and our mind. So, this conservation of energy is also a quality tap that we did in verse number 1, which results in this stage, in this brilliance at the level of the body, mind, and intellect. So, tej. Kshama is forgiveness. Now, this arises when the divine person understands that all the beings are acting as per their pre programmed nature, or in case of individuals, according to their vasana. So, in case of nature, we are more accepting. So, we know that a tree will bloom at the right time, will fruit at the right time. A tiger will kill for food. It doesn't make the tiger bad. That is the nature of tiger. Or the way we interact with infants and babies, we know that they are immature, and we have a more mature and understanding attitude towards the child or the toddler. A divine person, uh, interacts in the same manner with other people also, so that same attitude extends to human beings also. He or she understands that there is a person who will always gripe. So you meet the person, there will be something that is not right with the environment, with the world, and okay, fine, that the way the person is. Another one is more controlling variety. So the moment you go, you encounter those kind of statements or actions, you will have a docile person, and all these people are functioning according to their nature. So he forgives all these kind of people. At the same time, he or she intelligently interacts with the person. So a sane person, I mean, you will never go and pet a tiger or a lion or a snake. You know that that person or that animal should be seen and enjoyed actually from far away. So similarly, you will interact with the people in the right manner. So dhriti, that's the next quality. steadfastness or consistency of purpose, which we discussed also in the previous verse. Now, this is a quality of the intellect, and it is the consistency of purpose. So, you see, when you have an important meeting or you have a flight to catch, okay, nothing, a traffic jam or getting up late, none of this works actually, because all your elements of the body, mind, and intellect, everything is aligned and focused to catch the flight. So, this is at the worldly level. Similarly, when we go to the divine level, when we are doing our scripture, a spiritual sadhana, all the elements of the body, mind, and intellect are focused towards that particular goal. So, it is the firmness or steadfastness that helps us or enables us to achieve goals in and through all fields of activities. This is true for all fields of activities in the world and the spiritual. Now, the problem with the spiritual goal is that it is difficult to attain. It is something which is not visible to us. So, steadfastness is much more required to remain on the path till the time the goal is achieved. And this is the quality that the divine people have, that they remain on the path. They they also face the same situations that we face in our lives. You have sometimes you think that this year has been bad for me, and you feel that your mind, body, and senses, everything is reaching their breaking point, and very often you say that, oh, I can't take it anymore. I mean, I need a break. I need to go on a vacation or maybe something. So, in and through all these situations, also, the ability to hold on to your goal and work towards this is dhriti. So, it is a result of training our minds to function under the level of the intellect. So, maybe the vacation is not required. In fact, I should maybe be spending more time on a particular activity which I have been neglecting. So, the intellect is telling me that this vacation is not called for. You should sit down and maybe attend to the chores that you have been neglecting. So, I tell my mind, okay, we'll go for the break after I have finished. So, this is dhriti, steadfastness or determination comes from having a resolute intellect or the mind working under the aegis of the intellect, not the other way around. So, next is shocham. This we did that in verse number 1, which we just recapped, is purity. So, both internal and external purity. And we understand the impurity at the physical level. We keep our homes and environment clean. The same cleanliness should be taken to our mental and intellectual states as well. We should remove all the cobwebs that our mind is carrying, clean it out once in a while. And that is what will help us remove the impurities from within us. Our thoughts will become without malice, uh, genuine, honest. All these qualities automatically will start coming once we do the mental cleanliness. And it is the at the mental level the desires which are creating the impurity in us. So when under the desire, what happens is that even the pure emotions like love becomes conditioned, and it becomes it becomes an aberration and becomes obsession. So love can become attachment and finally obsession to something. So that quality has to go from us by practice of purity of thoughts. So a evolved person understands the nature of desires and is careful that they do not multiply. And in and through his or her actions, that person is able to sublimate, reduce them. So if I go to the market with a list of 20 items, instead of making that list 40, I judiciously, intelligently bring it down to 10 and say, okay, maybe I don't need the remaining 10. That is reduction of sublimation of desires. So the remaining 10, I will say, okay, do I need this? No, I have that. Maybe later I'll see whether I need. So this is how we reduce our desires. We don't suppress them. We remove them. We don't need them. That is how we renounce the desire. So when we reduce our desires, what happens? I have more time to focus on the remaining 10 items on my list. Similarly, when we reduce our desires overall in the world, in our journey, in our lifetime, we are able to spend more time on God. We can spend more time with God or in attaining God, so that God can reveal and emerge and reveal himself to us, itself to us. Also, we must remember that God reveals. It is not attained. It is not a goal outside that we can attain. It is the Godhood is within us. It is something which is not in the world. It is within each one of us, and we have to remove these layers of our personality, which is nothing but desires and vasana and ego, and automatically we'll go within and reach God. Then we come to our droha. Absence of revolt or absence of malice is more relevant here. This again arises from the oneness principle. So when you see that you as part of the whole creation, you see Paramatman in everything. So even in the ant, you will see Paramatman. Even in the non-moving tree, you will see God. And once you see oneness and you see God in everything that is in front of you, how can you not like that thing or not appreciate that thing, because God is there within that. So the feeling of demarcation or otherness or division or competition, all these go and they're just dissolved. And once none of these otherness, divisiveness or competition, none of this exists, how can you have malice and hatred? They don't go together. So such a person treats everyone just like himself or herself. Also, it's not that the person is dumb. The person understands the negative traits in oneself and in others, and understands that these need to be worked upon, especially in your case, in ourselves, I mean, within ourselves. But this does not lead to hatred, because the person understands that the other person is behaving as per his or her own vasanas. And similarly, the negative traits in me are also a result of my own vasanas. So I need to work on improving my content. So that is how the absence of malice will arise. Then the last quality that we come across is the nati manita, or absence of much pride. Now, this we need to understand. So, man or manita, man is respect. So, certain amount of self-respect we all have, and we should have. We should be self-respecting. So, manita means when we are self-respecting, and the way we treat others is how we expect the others to treat us. So that is the basic respect that we expect from others. So when you are meeting someone at the morning walk, you wish a good morning, you expect a reciprocation. There's nothing wrong with that. This is, I mean, unless the person is physically challenged or something, that's a different case. But a normal human being will react you expect the person to respect you and react with the same attitude. This is self respect, and a certain amount of self respect we all must know, have, possess. At the same time, now we add ati to the word. So it becomes ati manita. Now, this means when that the distortion of that self respect, like we were talking about how love uh, changes to attachment and obsession. Similarly, this self respect, when it is fed continuously, it leads to extreme arrogance, where we expect everyone to be always respecting me or talking to me. And this you notice when you go into a party where maybe you don't know anyone, and someone will enter the room, and you can see the fawning that follows after that. So okay, that is some VIP or a VVIP, since I think most of us are VIPs these days. That is what the person is expecting, and people are doing it because for whatever they want in return. Now this is that arrogance. Ati manita now becomes arrogance. And of course, now when we add to it, so the word becomes nati manita, which is the opposite of arrogance. So now, as we continue on our spiritual journey, what happens is that our ego, our sense of individuality, merges with Paramatman. So as I keep peeling these layers of my personality, the desires and our ego, individuality, and go on moving inwards, continue on our journey, we merge with Paramatman. So once we are Paramatman, how can we have our individuality? So, when the Ganga flows into the Bay of Bengal, okay, Ganga, the holy river of ours, our country, in the Bay of Bengal, the river doesn't say, I'm still Ganga. No, it's merged. The individuality is gone. So, when a mighty river like that merges with the ocean, the individuality is gone. I mean, we have to do likewise. We should also follow in the same footsteps and merge with Paramatman. And once we do that, where is the pride and where is the arrogance and where is the ego? It's not there. It's all Paramatman. So these qualities don't exist. So we have concluded with the list of divine qualities in this verse. We have covered 26 qualities, 9 in the first verse, 11 in the second one, and 6 in this last verse. So 26 qualities of divine people. Now, these qualities, we have used different adjectives, but we covered them in chapter 12, the Bhakti Yoga chapter. The verses were 13 to 20, which discussed the 35 qualities of a bhakta. And in chapter 13, verses 8 to 12, where we talked about the jnani or an enlightened person. The point is not to know that, okay, the bhakta has 35 qualities and the jnani has 20 qualities and a divine person has 26 qualities. That's irrelevant. We should, understand that all these qualities are something which are trying to give a form or a shape to a person who has whom we call a bhakta or whom we call a jnani or whom we call a dev or with divine qualities. So one is trying to give these qualities to explain that this is how the person would be or should be behaving. It's like, that same example of four blind men trying to identify the features of an elephant. The point is that all these qualities actually firstly flow from one to the next. So if you have tapaha, the radiance will all be there automatically, and that luster or tej cannot be without tap. So they feed into each other. And these qualities are essentially what? When you have dirty water, so the tap water, for example, is not clean in our country. So we install an aquaguard or a RO system. Now, what do they have? They use filters. Filters are doing what? Filters are just removing the impurities so that what comes out from the RO or from the aquaguard is pure water. That means water which has been restored to its original nature. You see, water was always pure. It is we only who have firstly polluted it. And when we get that polluted water, now we go back to purifying it so that we get the water in its original state. So these qualities are just like the filters in the aquaguard. They are helping us remove our vasanas or the impurities the desires that we have actually accumulated, so that we go back to our original state. So this is the relevance of these qualities. And none of us have all these qualities. So whether you work with the 35 or the 20 of the Jnani and the 26 here, it is, we don't, most of us don't have it. At least, even if we have some, those also don't work at a certain point of time when we are interacting in the world. And so even anger, for example, normally we are able to control our anger. But if I hit someone on the road, or someone else, okay, let me put it that way, because we'll always say that it is the other person's fault. Someone else hits my car on the road, there I go, So, or someone else jumps ahead of me in the queue. So these qualities also at times we don't exhibit consistently as we interact with the world. So even whatever quality we pick up to cultivate within us, it would be a good start. And once we focus on that, other qualities will just come behind it, they will follow. So these qualities are the ideal qualities that we must set as a goal for ourselves. And with that, we conclude today's session.